what happened in the subprime meltdown or the great financial crisis back in that 2007 to 9 era will not reoccur today. So let's look at some of the facts. Number one, credit score is a key driver and key indicator. 70% of homeowners have a credit score over a 720. If you go back to the 2008-9 era, about 28% had a 720 credit score. Credit wasn't as important because getting loans, getting credit cards, getting cars was easier. You didn't have to perfect your credit. Number two, there's about $11 trillion in equity in the United States right now. It's at the highest mark ever, 11 trillion. The average loan to value is the loan amount versus the value of the entire United States. If you take the blended loan to value for all homes, it's about 43%. So homeowners have 57% of equity, $11 trillion. Back in 2010, 1 out of 4 borrowers, 1 out of 4 clients were upside down. One of the key drivers is that there was a lot of adjustable rate mortgages back then. And they really weren't managed correctly because no one had ever seen the subprime meltdown, the great financial crisis like we did back then. So right now you have about 8% of mortgages in the US that are ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. Back in 2008, close to 40%. So a big difference. What happened was when these ARMs would expire and come due and start adjusting, people didn't realize it. They only saw the upside. They hadn't been educated. Loan officers were held to a different standard. You didn't have what was called TRID, which made a loan officer disclose, redisclose, overdisclose, where you really got that additional education. So ARM loans are not as consistent. We're seeing more fixed products. So people aren't going to get a bill that goes up 20, 30, 40%. The average mortgage delinquency right now is the lowest ever. It's under 3%. It's actually lower than pre-COVID numbers. People are making their payments. You also had in 2008-9, we had a lot of stated income loans. And there's programs that are kind of similar to that today, but back then you needed roughly a 500 credit score. You didn't need reserves, you didn't need a down payment. We had what were called no ratio, no asset loans, where you could just put 0 for income and get a loan. No money down, no reserves. So probably the key driver with why values dropped so much in that 2008 era was the foreclosures, the short sales, and the deed in lieu. In 2009 and 2010, there was just under 3 million foreclosures in the United States. If we fast forward that to 2021, there was about 150,000 foreclosures in 2021 and about 320,000 foreclosures in 2022. So you're talking about a fraction of these, distressed sales. So what happened with these foreclosures is banks would take them back as non-performing assets. They would assign them to an asset manager, and they would want to get them off their books as fast as they could because they were non-performing assets. They would sell them at a loss, 10, 20, 30% of the market, but those became your standard comps. So the rest of the straight equity sales, the good sales, had to compete with those distressed sales. The market tumbled down. That's the main reason why values dropped. Lastly, the inventory back in 2009 and 10 was close to 10 months of inventory. There were so many more houses on the market. If you look at 2021, we hit a few months where inventory was about 1.5 months of inventory. So you're looking at about 8 to 10 times difference in terms of the options to buy versus now. It's like going into a zip code and having 50 homes for sale or 2. Obviously, if there's 50, clients have a lot of options. They can negotiate. You're in a buyer's market versus a seller's market. So I hope that kind of shows you what the difference was between that 2008 era versus now. For every expert I've read on, there's no chance that will reoccur. Hope that helps you feel really confident when you're out there looking to buy a home.